You're not failing at your healing process because you're weak or incapable. Here's the real reason. When you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it was a partner, parent, friend, or boss, your mind gets trained to survive, not to thrive. And sometimes, the habits that helped you cope back then are the very ones holding you back now. Let's go through them together, one by one, so you can finally start moving forward in your healing journey. Here are the 9 bad habits those abused by narcissists need to break ASAP. Are you ready for number 1? Engaging in negative self-talk. If you wouldn't say it to a friend, why say it to yourself? After surviving narcissistic abuse, it's common to catch yourself repeating all the hurtful things they said, such as, "I'm not good enough," "I'm too sensitive," or "It's all my fault." That voice in your head is often not even yours. It's an echo of the narcissist's manipulation. But here's the truth. You don't deserve to be bullied by your own thoughts. According to Dr. Kristen Neff, a pioneer in self-compassion research, self-criticism is strongly associated with depression and dissatisfaction. Self-compassion, on the other hand, helps us feel safe and supported. You're taking back control when you challenge those negative thoughts and start speaking to yourself with kindness. It's not easy, especially when that inner critic has been your soundtrack for so long. However, breaking that habit is a powerful step in your healing. You've survived so much. Now it's time to become your own ally, not your enemy. Let's talk about number 2, minimizing experience. Downplaying or denying the abuse you endured is not healing, but avoiding facing painful truths. If you've been through narcissistic abuse, you might find yourself brushing it off, saying, "It could have been worse," or "Maybe I'm overreacting." This habit of minimizing what happened is a way your mind tries to protect you from the heavy truth. However, in the long run, it keeps you stuck. As trauma therapist Shannon Thomas writes in her book, Healing from Hidden Abuse, survivors often tell themselves false stories to make sense of the chaos. But healing begins when we call abuse what it is. By downplaying your experience, you may avoid the pain for a while, but you also delay the healing you truly deserve. It's okay to admit it hurts. You don't need to compare your pain to anyone else's or justify it. Your story matters, and it's real. No more shrinking it down to make others feel comfortable. Let's move on to number 3, suppressing emotions. Do you feel like you have to wear a mask just to survive? When you've been abused by a narcissist, you often learn to hide your real emotions, especially the painful ones, like anger, sadness, or fear, just to keep things calm. However, bottling everything up doesn't make you stronger. It just builds pressure inside you. As trauma therapist and author Pete Walker writes in his book, Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving, emotional neglect teaches us that our feelings are wrong or dangerous, but healing begins when we start honoring them instead of silencing them. You may have learned to swallow your pain to keep the peace, but now it's time to start letting those feelings out in safe ways, through journaling, therapy, or just being honest with someone you trust. You're not too emotional or too sensitive, you're just human. And feeling your feelings is not weakness. It's a powerful step toward healing. Now, let's continue to number 4, isolation. Are you hiding because it's safer, or because you've forgotten you're allowed to be seen? After narcissistic abuse, it's easy to pull away from people. You might feel ashamed, like no one will understand, Or maybe you just don't trust anyone anymore. That kind of pain teaches you to isolate yourself to stay safe, but it also keeps you stuck. According to psychotherapist Beverly Engel, author of The Emotionally Abused Woman, abusers isolate their victims to gain control, but survivors often continue the isolation out of habit or fear. You don't have to go through this alone anymore. Reaching out doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're ready to heal. Start small. One text, one conversation, one safe person. You deserve connection and support. You shouldn't miss number 5. Holding on to toxic hope. What if the closure you're waiting for is actually keeping you stuck? It's common to hold on to a quiet, painful hope that maybe, just maybe, the narcissist will change, apologize, or come back and finally love you the way you needed all along. However, that kind of hope is a trap. As psychotherapist Ross Rosenberg, author of The Human Magnet Syndrome, explains, narcissists don't change because they don't believe they're the problem. You've been conditioned to believe that if you just try harder or love them more, they'll finally see your worth. However, real healing begins when you stop waiting for them to be someone they're not. Letting go of toxic hope isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over pain. You don't need their permission to move on. You just need to believe you deserve more because you do. Are you still up for number 6? Ignoring self-care. When was the last time you prioritized yourself? After being abused by a narcissist, your mind and body often go into survival mode. You're so used to focusing on getting through the day that basic self-care starts to feel unimportant or even selfish. However, ignoring your needs only drains you more. As Dr. Edith Eger, trauma survivor and author of The Gift, says, self-care is not selfish. It's self-respect. Taking time to eat well, sleep, move your body, or simply breathe doesn't mean you're wasting time. It means you're slowly choosing life again. You've already made it through so much. Now you deserve to give your body, mind, and heart the care they've been begging for. Start small and remind yourself, you are worth the effort. Let's keep it moving to number 7. Avoiding professional help. Healing starts with just one brave yes to help. After experiencing narcissistic abuse, it's easy to feel like you have to handle everything on your own. Maybe you've been told no one will believe you, or you've learned to distrust people, even therapists. However, avoiding professional help is one of the habits you really need to break. You don't have to carry it all alone. Therapy gives you a safe space to unlearn the lies the narcissist planted in your head, like thinking your feelings don't matter, or that everything's your fault. Yes, there might be shame or stigma, but that's not yours to hold on to. You deserve guidance from someone trained to help you make sense of the mess, rebuild trust, and reconnect with your real self, free from manipulation. Here comes number 8, over-apologizing. Do you always have to say sorry for just being yourself? If you've been hurt by a narcissist, you may have learned to say sorry all the time, even when it's not your fault or you're just speaking up for yourself. You probably felt like walking on eggshells, constantly trying to keep the peace or avoid punishment. However, over-apologizing sends a message to your own brain that you're always wrong, even when you're not. Psychologist Dr. Nicole LePera, author of How to Do the Work, explains that this habit often comes from living in survival mode, where your nervous system is wired to avoid conflict at any cost. She says, apologizing excessively is a trauma response, not a personality trait. You don't have to apologize for having boundaries, emotions, or opinions. Start small. Catch yourself when you say sorry out of habit, and replace it with a more truthful statement, like, thank you for understanding, or simply say nothing at all. You have the right to take up space without guilt. Finally, we're down to number 9, people-pleasing. Whose life are you living? Yours or someone else's? If you've been through narcissistic abuse, you might have picked up the habit of people-pleasing without even realizing it. You've likely been trained to ignore your own needs just to keep the peace or avoid conflict. But here's the truth. Constantly saying yes to others means you're often saying no to yourself. As Dr. Thema Bryant, psychologist and author of Homecoming, says, you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. This habit stems from the fear of rejection or punishment, but breaking it is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your life. You deserve to prioritize your own feelings without guilt. Start by checking in with yourself before saying yes. Ask, is this what I want? Your healing starts when you stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Healing after narcissistic abuse isn't easy, but breaking these habits is a powerful step toward getting your life back. You don't have to carry the weight of your past any longer. You're allowed to grow, set boundaries, and choose peace. You've already survived the hard part. Now it's time to truly start living life to the fullest.